admit I do get depressed. Every day I get a bit of depression. Sometimes I cry when I see the food we get. It's so bad, and much of the time I'm hungry 24 hours a day because my stomach is shrinking fast, and there's just not that much food that has any content here. And the things I do eat, like apples and bananas and oranges, they don't have a lot of they break down into water and cellulose pretty quickly, and my body strips them of the nutrients and then passes it out. So I'm getting thinner pretty quick, but on that note, I'm still together and healthy. But I do suffer from bouts of depression already, and I've only been here 17 days, so I'm sure over the next months ahead it'll get worse in SeaTac, and ultimately in a federal institution in the United States, wherever I go. I mean, the food will probably be slightly better, and there'll be more of an exercise area, and hopefully a few more things. When Tommy Chong was spending 9 months at Taft Penitentiary, there was a garden there, and of course California doesn't quite get winters like we get them, so they had a garden there. Inmates could go out and tend in the garden. I'm hoping that there's some opportunities wherever I go for that kind of, getting outside of your cell. And but that having been said, I'm now getting 3 out of the 4 newspapers that I supposedly have a subscription to. They're slowly arriving. The National Post, Globe and Mail, and the Province arrived today, and I'm hoping the Vancouver Sun starts tomorrow. I write lots of material every day. I wrote a letter to the editor of the Vancouver Sun yesterday that was transmitted to them, and I'm writing an article about the 1-year first anniversary of the Conservative government in Canada and all the ominous and dangerous trends that are going on in this country, from the judges being appointed by the Conservative Party who have given them donations. These right-wing judges are being appointed to federal courts. We've got the Senate being stacked with right-wing Conservative Party bagmen. We've got all these bills that are adding more prisons in this country. Bill C-15 making thousands more people susceptible to mandatory minimum jail sentences for marijuana and drug offenses. We've got the $10,000 fine for having a dissenting sign during the Olympics, even in your own home. We were virtually getting the War Measures Act in the last year through osmosis. Slowly but surely the country is changing. And on one hand, I regret being in jail only because I'm not being effective enough in countering the really ominous trends that are happening in this country. And of course, in SeaTac, and when I'm in the United States, I'll be even more unable to do anything about it. And it's putting a big burden on Jody. She's having to do so much as the Green Party candidate and looking after the store and trying to keep me cheered up and sending things and maintaining the Free Marc campaign. And of course, we've sold nearly 500 T-shirts now of the Free Marc campaign. So I know that people are very interested in helping free me and get me out, and I really appreciate that. And I know there are people doing things, and it was nice to see my movie aired on province-wide television again, and it's nice to see editorial cartoons supportive of me in certain newspapers and what have you. But, as time goes by, these things fade, so I'm hoping that people can somehow keep up the intensity and come up with gimmicks and ideas to keep me before the public, because there's a lot going on. In Canada, in Vancouver, the Olympics are coming, and there's a lot of crises about finances and the economy and what have you. So hopefully, I won't be put permanently on some back burner and forgotten. That's kind of like the thing you kind of fear sometimes when you're getting depressed, is that, I'll just fade away here, through a combination of malnutrition, neglect, and just stupefying numbness, because there's virtually nothing much to do other than read. And people have sent me some books. One of the things I'm really enjoying is reading a graphic novel series by Alan Moore called Promethea, which is a series of comic books, 6 per book, 30 comic books altogether, bound in 5 volumes, and I'm really, really enjoying them. It's really kept my mind alert and my sense of imagination free, and while I'm reading them, it keeps the depression away and the kind of the sense that I'm, if this is how I feel after 16 days, imagine how I'd feel after half a year and a half. Those kind of, I just can't imagine it. I thought when I got that 3-month sentence and served it in Saskatoon Correctional, although that was a much better facility than this place is. I mean, I consider that a luxury accommodation now, having been in Saskatoon Correctional, where we actually made our own food, and a lot of it was even good for you. And I got to walk out in a yard and get fresh air, and I could have a Discman. You can't have anything like that here. So you don't have any music here, and there's no television I really care to watch. And these kind of challenges, right, is keeping your mind from going buggy. And literally, I'm with the many, psychologically and emotionally scarred people here who've all committed in some way or another, criminal offenses or drug offenses or, potentially violent offenses. There was a brawl here this morning right beside me. Two people got into a fight and started taking swings at each other, and then there was blood all over the place. And my cellmate got a $5 addition to his canteen money for mopping all the blood up. It's called bio. Whenever you have to go in and clean up bio, that means those are bodily fluids that have been spilled for some reason. So it's quite the environment.
No kidding. Mark, I wanted to ask you, you had told me before that you were going to lodge a formal complaint about the food there. Is there any word on that?
There's the funny thing is the sign on the wall says here, if you do not receive a response within 7 days, then you should call free of charge to Investigation and Standards Office in Victoria. Well, I haven't received anything back from the 3 complaints I made 10, 12 days ago, right? So they're already owed rent. And I wonder if I'll ever see anything about them, and they were very reasonable requests, when a complaint was about, my wife's, Jody's letters are being returned if she attaches a Post-it note, or the latest letter she sent me was returned because there was 2 pages of inappropriate material, and that might mean anything as innocuous as photographing a bong, or when she reproduced some pages off the net, there might have been an ad for seeds on the top of one, and not ours, but somebody's seed ad, and then that could be, and then they send back the whole letter. And they do things very slowly here, so the bureaucracy is such that, it takes a week or 2 before Jody even gets that letter back so she can look at it, take out the objectionable material, and then send it back to me. And, that ends up being weeks later. So I've, 3 letters from Jody I have not received, and I've only received 2 or 3 of them that got through just because she had a Post-it note attached to one of them that just said, start here, or there was something with something objectionable in it, and they never really define what it is that's objectionable, so it takes weeks for me to get that letter. And so I complained about that it was reasonable for them to go through letters perhaps, but why don't they just take the Post-it note off themselves and then forward me the letter? So those things were exasperating. I complained that no direct sunlight is able to touch the inmate because the wall around the so-called recreation area is so high the sun actually doesn't hit anybody. It doesn't get down to where the inmates are. I haven't heard about that. And I complained that there are no healthy products in the vending machines. There could be V8 juice in there, which is good for you. And they have empty spots available that are never filled with anything, and they don't bother putting healthy things there. And same with the vending machines are all chocolate bars, chips, and bad noodles, and things that are really wretched for you. I said, why don't they put, fresh cut salad in there, fresh cut fruit that you can buy for $5 or $6. I mean, I'd buy them all, so I know they would sell them. I would simply buy all the salads myself and eat them, right? And that was a complaint because I said these are all things that they can do something about, and they choose not to do something about because the whole purpose of this place is to make life so miserable and so difficult and so punishing that people want to plead guilty to get put into a detention center or a correction center or a federal penitentiary, because all those facilities have much better opportunities for books. For example, there are no books in this jail. You can't read anything. If you don't order them in like I do, and that's a very precise thing. They have to come from Amazon or for chapters specifically, and they have to be softcover. I had a package of books arrive that contained hardcover books, and they were all red-directed and sent back, so I didn't get any of those books because they say people can use hardcover books as a means of escape or a weapon, and it's just crazy because all these things, you can get much better food in a correctional facility, detention center, or federal penitentiary. You can get books in those facilities. You can get music in those facilities. But here they make it so difficult in order to compel you to plead guilty just to get the hell out of here. And a lot of people do. Eventually they just break down and admit, okay, I assaulted him. Even if he attacked me, it doesn't matter. I got to get out of here. People slowly but surely lose their mind in this particular place and awaiting trial, or in my case, awaiting extradition. And so, it's not a very subtle way of putting pressure on people to plead guilty so they can be moved to a better place.